Okay, in this video I'm starting at question 3. I have looked at question 1 and 2 from this sheet in a previous video, so I'll try and link that below in the comments if you want to have a look at that one. In this video I'm going to go through question 3 and look at the equation of the line, midpoint, distance between the points, and sketching an equation of those two coordinates. So looking at our first set, so A and B, 2, 3 and negative 2, 3. I'm going to start with midpoint and distance and then do equation of a line. So midpoint is our x1 plus x2 over 2 and y1 plus y2 over 2. So I'm going to put my x1, y1, x2, y2 up the top there so I know what I'm going to be using. So for my midpoint, I'm going to do 2 plus negative 2 over 2, and I'm going to have 3 plus 3 over 2. So when I do the 2 plus negative 2, obviously I'm going to get a 0 there because I've got 0 divided by 2, and then 3 plus 3 is 6 divided by 2 is 3, which makes sense because your two coordinates are both 3, so the middle of that is just going to be 3. Double checking that I had written that down correctly, and yes I did. So the next thing that I'm going to do is the distance between these 2 points. Now I could be a little bit tricky about this because I know that I have the same y coordinate there. So if I did a quick little sketch of what I've got over here, I've got 2 and 3, and I've got negative 2 and 3. So if I joined them up with my ruler, not sure where my ruler is, so I'm just going to do it with my freehand, I've got a horizontal line. So then I know that the distance between that is going to be 4 because as I go along, 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 4 between them and I'm not changing any rise or run there. So when I do my distance formula, I'm going to show you how to use that for it, but I can actually see straight away that the distance is going to be 4. So when I use my distance formula, I've got y2 minus y1 squared plus x2 minus x1 squared. So I'm putting in my y2 minus y1 is just going to be 3 take away 3 squared plus, and then I've got my negative 2 take away 2 squared. So I end up with 0 plus, and then negative 2 take away 2 will be negative 4 squared. Now when I do negative 4 squared, I'm going to get 16, and then when I do the square root, I'm going to get 4, which is what we were expecting. We also want the equation of the line. Now, having already sketched that, I can see that it's a horizontal line. I know that horizontal lines are of the form of y equals something. So in this case, it's y equals 3 because it's going through every value of y is 3. So I know that that is my equation. And looking back at the question, what else did I need? I wanted to sketch an equation of the line on the same set of axes. I'm just going to do one for each of these as I go along. So there's my first one done. I've got my midpoint, distance, I've got a sketch of it, and I've got my equation. So I'm going to go on to the next set of coordinates now. So I've got my midpoint is going to be my x1 plus x2 on 2 and my y1 plus y2 on 2, remembering to put my brackets around there. And then I've got negative 3 plus 2 over 2, and I've got 3 plus 5 over 2 there. Now negative 3 plus 2 is going to be negative 1 divided by 2, so that's just negative a half. And then I've got 3 plus 5 is 8 over 2 is 4. I'm going to do my distance there. This time I don't have any matching ones, so I can't just do that straight away by looking. So I'm going to do and I'll put my x1, y1 up here, x2, y2. So I'm going to do my y2 take away y1 squared plus my x2 take away x1 squared. So then I have got 5 take away 3 squared plus 2 take away negative 3 squared. Now when I do 5 take away 3, I get 2. When I square it, I'm going to get 4. When I do 2 take away negative 3, I get 5. When I square it, I'm going to get 25. So I'm going to do the square root of 29, and that gives me 5.38 so I'm going to round that to 5.39. So I've done my midpoint and I've done my distance. I want to work out the equation of the line. So for this, so when we want the equation of the line, we need two things. We need our gradient and our y-intercept. Now, by sketching those 2 points, I can actually see whereabouts that, I might be able to see where it cuts the y-axis by doing that. And so I've got my ruler, found that now. I'm going to do a quick sketch to see what that's going to look like, because obviously that's going to make things easier for me. So I've got the points -3, 3. And so that will be -3, 3 will be here. And then I've got 2, 5 will be up there. So I can see when I sketch that, it looks like it's going to cut at about 4.5. So I think I might have to do my calculations to make sure I've got the right answer for that rather than assuming it's 4.5. So I'm going to say approximately 4.5, but let's have a look. So first thing I'm going to do is find my gradient of the line. So using my coordinates there, my gradient, and I use the little m, is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And if my graph had been a bit clearer, I might have been able to read that off there. The rise over run. So I'm going to do 5 take away 3 over 2 take -3. 5 take 3 is 2. 2 take away -3 is 5. So my gradient is 2/5. So every time I go across 5, I'm going to go up 2. And looking at my picture over here, as I went across 5, I went up 2. So that does make sense with what I could see on my sketch. Now to do my equation, I know that y equals mx plus c, and we have now got the 2/5 there. So I'm going to use one of my coordinates. So it doesn't really matter which one I choose. I'm going to use the 2, 5 just because they're both positive numbers. And I'm going to sub them in down here. So the y was 5, so I'm going to put a 5. I've got 2/5 times 2 there, plus c. So 2/5 times 2 is going to give me 4/5. And so then to get what the c is, I'm going to do 5 take away 4/5, which will be 4 1/5, or 4.2. Now I estimated that it was about 4.5, so 4.2, yep, that makes sense from what I could see on that graph. If I'd used graph paper and was a little bit more accurate, I might have been able to see that a little bit clearer. Now, because I've already done a sketch over there, that's that part of it done. Now, the next one that we have is -2, -3, and 4, 2. So this was part C of question 3. So starting the same way again, midpoint equals x1 plus x2 over 2, y1 plus y2 over 2. So I'm going to put my x1, y1, x2, y2 up the top. So x1 plus x2 is my -2 plus 4 over 2, and then -3 plus 2 over 2 there. So my -2 plus 4 is going to give me 2, divided by 2 is 1, and -3 plus 2 is going to be -1 over 2. Or you could have written -0.5. Working out my distance, I need to put a comma there, d is going to be equal to the square root of y2 minus y1 squared plus x2 minus x1 squared. So I'm going to sub in those values, and I've got 2 take away -3 squared plus 4 take away -2 squared. So that means I'm going to get 5 squared, which is 25, and 6 squared, which will be 36. So 25 plus 36 is going to give me 61, and when I do the square root of that, I'm going to get 7.81 as my answer. Now the lucky last one of these, part D, we have is -6, -4, and -5, -3. Oh, I just realised I didn't finish off that previous question. I've only done the midpoint and distance. I haven't done my equation, and I haven't sketched my line. So quickly sketching those 2 points. before moving on. So I've got -2, -3. And there's my point there, there's my 0, 0, and then I've got 4, and I'm